Good afternoon. I'm Mary Ann Carter, Chairman of the National Endowment for the Arts, and the 201st meeting of the National Council on the Arts is now in session. I want to welcome everyone who is calling in this morning. Although we were supposed to be gathering in Puerto Rico for this council meeting, I think everyone will agree that your living room is just as exciting a destination as beautiful, historic San Juan. But we'll get there. I promised our friends in Puerto Rico we will find a way to get there when it's safely to travel. We are definitely looking into rescheduling that trip and cannot wait to bring the council down there. And for the record, the council members who are joining us on the call are arts researcher Bruce Carter from Miami Beach, Florida, violinist and music educator Aaron Tworkin from Ann Arbor, Michigan, performer and songwriter and birthday boy Lee Greenwood from Nashville, Tennessee, philanthropic professional Deepa Gupta from Chicago, Illinois, attorney, musician, and former member of Congress Paul Hodes from Concord, New Hampshire, urban planning and community policy specialist Maria Rosario Jackson from Los Angeles, California, music professor and arts administrator Emil Kane from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, patron and trustee Charlotte Kessler from Columbus, Ohio, arts administrator Maria Lopez de Leon from San Antonio, Texas, organic farmer and author Mas Masumoto from Delray, California, visual artist Barbara Ernst-Prey from Oyster Bay, New York, dancer, choreographer, and teacher Ronnie Ramaswamy from Minneapolis, Minnesota, film industry executive Tom Rothman, also from Los Angeles, California, and independent curator and consultant Olga Viso from Scottsdale, Arizona. Now, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of our June council meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Now we'll move to the council members' votes. Tony Chabot, our Deputy Chairman for Programs and Partnerships, will lead us through this portion of the meeting. Tony?
Thanks, Mary Ann. Good afternoon, council members. We'll proceed with the application review section of the agenda. The tally of the votes will be announced at the end of today's session. The council will be voting by ballot today on award recommendations totaling more than $32.6 million in 3 funding areas: grants for arts projects, creative writing fellowships, and national initiatives. These funding recommendations are found in the corresponding sections of your council book. For your vote to be tallied, you must be present at the time on the line at the time of the motion, discussion, and vote. And you must email your votes to Kim Jefferson immediately at the conclusion of this part of the meeting. Council members' affiliations are recorded in the council book and later will be attached to your ballots, and each member has been provided an opportunity to update this information prior to the meeting. Council members are recorded as not voting on applications with which they are affiliated. This list becomes part of the agency's official record. After brief summaries of the 3 funding areas, council members will have an opportunity to ask questions and/or discuss the recommendations before voting by ballot. May I have a motion to consider the recommended grants and rejections under grants for arts projects, creative writing fellowships, and national initiatives in the council book?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Now I will summarize the 3 funding areas on which you will be voting and then pause for any comments or questions from council members. The Grants for Arts Projects category is the flagship grant category of the National Endowment for the Arts. Through project-based funding, we support public engagement with and access to various forms of excellent art across the nation, the creation of art that meets the highest standards of excellence, learning in the arts at all stages of life, and the integration of the arts into the fabric of community life. Grants for Arts Projects encourages and supports projects that celebrate America's creativity and/or cultural heritage, invite a dialogue that fosters a mutual respect for the diverse beliefs and values of all persons and groups, and enrich our humanity by broadening our understanding of ourselves as individuals and as a society. In February 2020, the agency received 1,674 eligible applications requesting more than $82.4 million in fiscal year 2021 support. Recommended for the council's approval are 1,073 projects totaling nearly $25 million. Grants are recommended to 64% of all applicants, with amounts ranging from $10,000 to $100,000 and an average grant amount of $23,100. Recommended projects span 15 disciplines and fields. Direct grants are recommended to 48 states, as well as the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico. Are there any comments or questions from the council? If not, please mark your ballot. The National Endowment for the Arts provides direct support to creative writers and literary translators of distinction through creative writing fellowships. Fellowships in poetry enable recipients to set aside time for writing, research, travel, and general career advancement. Fellowships for translation projects enable recipients to translate work from other languages into English. This year, a total of $875,000 is being recommended to 35 writers in creative writing poetry and $325,000 to 24 translators to translate works from 16 languages in 19 countries into English. Are there any comments or questions from the council? If not, please mark your ballot. National initiatives support a wide variety of projects of national and field-wide significance. At this meeting, the council is requested to approve funding for 22 projects representing 4 disciplines totaling more than $6.5 million. Support is requested for the Citizens Institute on Rural Design, which enhances the quality of life and economic viability of small towns and rural communities through planning, design, assistance, and creative placemaking activities. The production and management of public events for the National Endowment for the Arts National Heritage Fellowship Program, which annually honors American folk and traditional artists or groups of artists for their contribution to our national cultural mosaic. 14 recommended projects in the National Endowment for the Arts grants, research and grants in the arts, which support a broad range of arts-related studies, many of which focusing on the arts in health and human development. 5 recommended projects in National Endowment for the Arts research labs, which are focused on arts, health, and social, emotional well-being, and arts innovation and entrepreneurship. The Creative Forces, NEA Military Healing Arts Network, which provides creative arts therapies and arts engagement activities in clinical and community settings for service members, veterans, and their families. Are there any comments or questions from the council? If not, please mark your ballot. Council members joining by teleconference, you may now email your votes to Kim Jefferson on those 3 categories. Finally, we move to the award updates section. These grants have been awarded under the chairman's designated authority and are brought to the council's attention at this meeting, but no vote is necessary. Included are 66 Arts Engagement in American Communities Program grants totaling $660,000. 7 Chairman's Extraordinary Action Grants, 4 interagency agreements, and 16 20% amendments. Thank you. Mary Ann?
Thank you, Tony. When we first sent our staff home for 2 weeks back in March, we never could have imagined that we'd still be teleworking 8 months later with no end in sight. And yet here we are. I want you to know I remain in complete awe of how our staff has never missed a beat. You would have no idea looking at our workload, productivity, and accessibility that anything has changed in our day-to-day operations. Our grant panels have been convening over Zoom, awards have been distributed on schedule nationwide, and our national initiatives have continued to reach thousands of Americans across the country. You might have noticed a very visible example of our continued hard work when we debuted our gorgeous new website earlier this month. I want to applaud our web team for the tremendous effort they made to give our agency such a stunning new facelift. Part of maintaining business as usual, of course, means that we have been hiring new staff members and sadly saying goodbye to others. One goodbye that I find especially bittersweet is the retirement of Jillian Miller. After 32 years at the agency, today marks Jillian's last day at the Arts Endowment. Jillian joined us in 1988 as part of our opera and musical theater program before moving to work on to Guidelines in 1995. She became director of Guidelines and panel operations in 2005, where she helped transition Guidelines from hard copy booklets to web pages, implemented the first webinars and remote panels, developed the mechanisms that enabled applicants to submit their materials electronically, and oversaw our migration to the EGMS system. She also happens to be one of the sharpest, funniest, and hardest working people this agency has ever had. Jillian, we will miss you dearly. One of Jillian's last great heroic acts was helping us develop the guidelines for our CARES Act awards. I just want to take a few minutes to update you on our final numbers for those grants. As you know, in March, the Arts Endowment received $75 million through the CARES Act to support America's arts and culture sectors and to save as many jobs as possible. Within less than 3 weeks, we awarded nearly $30 million to state arts agencies and regional arts organizations. These organizations moved equally quickly and re-granted over 4,000 awards to local arts organizations throughout their jurisdictions. I want to publicly thank our partners at the state art agencies and the regional arts organizations for the incredible work they've done over the past few months to provide relief and support to their constituents. The remaining $45 million that the Arts Endowment received was awarded through direct grants to nonprofit arts organizations. In the end, we awarded grants of $50,000 to 846 organizations throughout the country, providing what we hope was a critical lifeline. While I'm enormously proud of the relief we were able to provide and the speed at which we were able to provide it, every single person at the Arts Endowment knows we are acutely aware that our supply of funding did not come close to meeting the demand for assistance. Every organization, big and small, urban and rural, is struggling right now. And we received more than 3,100 eligible applications requesting $157 million. So we're hopeful that our agency will be included in any future relief bills that Congress might pass so that we can continue to assist our nation's incredible arts workers. In addition to grant making, our staff has also been conducting outreach with the field, perhaps more than ever before. By the end of 2020, we'll have hosted at least 13 virtual town halls, which have taken the place of our usual grants workshops. While these town halls still walk potential applicants through our grant process and provide guidance for how to submit a successful application, They also create space for the type of discussion and support that we feel is so critical during this time of uncertainty, when so many questions still abound. By the end of the year, we'll have also conducted an additional 5 workshops and roundtables with members of Congress, including Representative Hayes of Connecticut, Case of Hawaii, Cheryl of New York, and Representatives Matsui and Cisneros of California. These congressional workshops give our lawmakers a fuller understanding of how the agency ticks and why the work we do is so important to their constituents and to the country as a whole. We are so grateful for the strong relationships we have on Capitol Hill and are thankful that we have been able to maintain and strengthen these relationships even during this time of isolation. Our staff has also kept up, being extremely busy. Agendas of participation in virtual conferences and workshops. And I'd like to tell you about a few recent highlights. As part of our ongoing efforts to attract more applications from historically Black colleges and universities, or HBCUs, agency staff participated in 2 separate sessions at the National HBCU Week Conference in September, sponsored by the White House Initiative on HBCUs. We co-hosted a workshop called Applying for Success, which offered tips and guidance for how to successfully apply for cultural grants. And we also co-organized a session about the creative economy and jobs, where we shared information about the vital importance of the arts and cultural sector to both the nation's and each state's overall economic health. We had close to 250 participants across both sessions, which was a great turnout. I'd like to take a moment to also speak to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Since the killing of George Floyd, so many organizations across the country, not just arts organizations, are rethinking how to be more diverse and inclusive. I'm thrilled to see this because it's so important and because it's rooted in this agency's foundation. In 1966, in the Arts Endowment's first fiscal year, the council approved grants to a few individual choreographers, including Alvin Ailey and Mexican-born dancer and choreographer Jose Arcadio Limon. And, quote, to focus national attention on the significant cultural history of the American Indian, end quote. The National Endowment for the Arts made a matching grant to support the Festival of the Performing Arts of the American Indian. From our origins through today, the National Endowment for the Arts strives to make sure all Americans, and that means all Americans, are celebrated and have access to the arts. In August, our Director of Research and Analysis, Sunil Iyengar, also spoke at an Americans for the Arts virtual conference of National Service Organization leaders. There, he presented the survey results that we shared with you in June about reopening plans and concerns among NSO member organizations. That survey was conducted in the spring when we were still relatively early in the pandemic. We just completed a follow-up survey of 16 NSOs to understand the degree to which their members have reopened physical spaces and what challenges and solutions might have arisen since we surveyed them last. Sunil presented some initial findings from this follow-up survey at another NSO meeting last week. Some of the survey highlights include far more museums seem to have reopened than performing arts organizations. When it comes to reopening, service organizations identified enforcing social distancing, followed by public messaging about safety protocols, and requiring or handing out masks to be the most effective strategies. Intense sanitization measures followed closely behind. Service organizations identified other effective reopening practices as simultaneously live stream performances for those not comfortable indoors, outdoor performances and events, and timed entry or ticketing. At the same time, providing virtual arts content was identified as a top difficulty when it comes to re-engaging audiences. Other hurdles are audiences and visitors not following safety guidelines, the costs of retrofitting and preparing venues to ensure maximum safety, and how reserved or advanced ticketing can create accessibility issues. In terms of working with staff and artists as venues prepared to reopen, the top concern was addressing morale and/or social or emotional well-being issues. Other top concerns were monitoring their physical health status and providing transportation to and from venues. Costliness of regular COVID-19 testing and resistance to compulsory monitoring also emerged as challenges. In November, we expect to complete a report not only on the survey results, but also on many case studies of arts organizations that have successfully reopened. This document will provide tips and strategies for other organizations that are still fine-tuning their own reopening plans. I want to let you know about another exciting development taking place at the agency. The Arts Endowment has a strong, long-standing history of supporting the nation's arts education ecosystem, including through our investments in the Arts Education Partnership, or AEP, through our support of national and state arts education leaders, and through our direct grant making. Over the past few months, the agency has also started to think more deeply about how can we better support teaching artists, both during the pandemic and beyond. Thanks to the vision and leadership of our Director of Arts Education, Ayanna Hudson, we'll be hosting a virtual national convening for teaching artists in the coming months, along with our partners at AEP, the U.S. Department of Education, the Hewlett Foundation, and the Teaching Artists Guild. This is really monumental because there has never before been a federal convening for teaching artists. We're hoping this national conversation will help inform how the country can create a sustainable future for teaching artists that will allow them to thrive now and in the future. Excuse me. The Arts Endowment is very excited to take on this leadership role, and we are also looking into how the agency can directly support an infrastructure for teaching artists as part of the nation's arts education ecosystem. In 2019, the Arts Endowment released a report, Living Traditions. It was an analysis, a look at our portfolio on folk and traditional arts program. 2 weeks ago, based a lot on that report, I was speaking at the American Folklore Society and announced a renewed commitment to the folk and traditional arts by announcing 2 new initiatives. The Arts Endowment will make a $1 million investment in a national folklife network to develop new folklife infrastructure in spaces where it does not currently exist. The agency's strategic goal here is to develop cohorts in these regions with a shared interest in folklife and cultural heritage that will include an established anchor organization as well as related organizations and individuals. The second development will be the expansion of our folk arts partnerships from 51 to all 62 states, territories, and regions of the country for the first time in the program's history. With these new investments in 2021, the Arts Endowment's annual commitment to folk and traditional arts will increase from roughly $4.5 million to about $5.5 million annually an increase of 20%. As with everything else this year, all of our planned agency events have taken a different, largely virtual shape this year. And yet they have still taken place, allowing the nation to celebrate and experience the joy of art, even amid these uncertain times. I am so proud of the way our staff has managed to produce what have been some really extraordinary events and programs, and on such little notice, and using tools and formats that are completely new to them. Among the events that moved to a digital platform was our 2020 NEA Jazz Masters concert. This event was originally scheduled to take place in San Francisco last April with our partners at SF Jazz. Instead, we worked with SF Jazz to produce a truly stunning hour-long virtual concert in August, which showcased performances from acclaimed jazz musicians such as Dee Dee Bridgewater, Christian McBride. These performances were recorded from locations around the country and were broadcast together to create a truly unforgettable homage to this year's honorees. And if you haven't seen it, please go to arts.gov and watch it in our archives. It was really a stunning performance. This year's class of Jazz Masters included jazz advocate Dorthon Kirk, vocalist, composer, conductor, and educator Bobby McFerrin, saxophonist, composer, and educator Roscoe Mitchell, and bassist, educator, composer, and producer Reggie Workman. The digital archive, as I said, is now available on arts.gov for your viewing pleasure, and I hope you will go see it. Last week, we also announced the 2021 class of NEA Jazz Masters. They are Terry Lynn Carrington, Albert Tootie Heath, Henry Threadgill, and Phil Schack, this year's recipient of the A.B. Spellman NEA Jazz Masters Fellowship for Jazz Advocacy. Our 2021 tribute concert will take place also virtually on April 22nd, again in partnership with SF Jazz. More information about the event will be available in early 2021, so please stay tuned. Autumn is usually when we celebrate our NEA National Heritage Fellows. But this year's event will now take place March 4th, when we'll pay tribute to this year's class with a free virtual event. During the broadcast, we'll visit our Heritage Fellows in their homes and communities, where they will treat us to performances and demonstrations of their art forms. Earlier this month, I had the privilege of congratulating our fellows on a group Zoom call, which gave us all a chance to get to know each other and to experience the camaraderie that our heritage celebration always provides. We also had an incredibly successful multi-tiered celebration of the Women's Suffrage Centennial. In August, we published the book, Creativity and Persistence, Art That Fueled the Fight for Women's Suffrage, which highlighted the role that the arts played in the suffrage movement. We printed 2,000 copies of the book, which were distributed to members of Congress, the White House, governors, and mayors from around the nation, our partners at state arts agencies and regional arts organizations, presidents of women's colleges, and other leaders. We received extremely positive feedback from everyone who read it, which was incredibly gratifying considering how hard our staff worked on this beautiful publication. As I mentioned in June, we also took on a leadership role in Forward into Light, which encouraged public buildings and landmarks to light up in purple and gold on August 26th to celebrate the passage of the 19th Amendment. In the end, hundreds of organizations across the country participated, and purple and gold shone down from the Library of Congress to the Rose Bowl, from the Empire State Building to the St. Louis Gateway Arch, and from Niagara Falls to the San Antonio Museum of Art. We were honored to have helped the Women's Suffrage Centennial Commission with this campaign. In September, We hosted the Poetry and Prose stage at the Library of Congress's first ever virtual National Book Festival. We had an incredible lineup, including presentations by our current and former Poets Laureate, Joy Harjo, Juan Felipe Herrera, Rita Dove, all of whom happen to be NEA Creative Writing Fellows as well. We also hosted conversations with acclaimed authors and poets, such as NEA Creative Writing Fellows Elizabeth Talent and Mark Doty, and appearances by some of our extraordinary POL participants. Librarian Carla Hayden and I also participated in a conversation made available to all festival goers. It was a really wonderful weekend, and it was really moving to see that not even a pandemic could dampen our nation's love of literature. Videos of the festival's presentations will be available on the Library of Congress's website for a few more weeks, so you still have time to check it out. Please do. As I mentioned earlier, our national initiatives have also continued to bring the arts to Americans nationwide, sometimes in person and sometimes virtually. Last month, the 2020-2021 season of Poetry Out Loud kicked off in classrooms across America. Although many schools have resumed in-person learning, we have strongly encouraged that all levels of competition take place virtually, including at the classroom, school, and state levels. Together with our partners at the Poetry Foundation, we've put together resources for organizers to host successful virtual POL competitions, which can be found online at poetryoutloud.org. poetryoutloud.org. In order to ensure the safety and health of participating students and staff, the 2021 POL National Finals will also be held virtually next spring in lieu of holding them on site in Washington, D.C., as previously planned. State winners will be invited to submit recordings of their recitations, which will be reviewed by a panel of judges. I'm so grateful that our digital capabilities are such that we're able to continue this incredible program uninterrupted, so that we can bring the benefits of poetry to our teenagers at a time when they really need it most. In September, our National Endowment for the Arts Big Read programming also began in communities across the country, both for our 2021 grantees, as well as some 1920 grantees that had to shift their programming due to the pandemic. We posted our new Big Read grant guidelines a few weeks ago, which included an announcement of the 6 books that will be available for the 21-22 programming cycle. These include An American Sunrise by Joy Harjo, Beloved by Toni Morrison, The Best We Could Do, an illustrated memoir by T. Bowie, The Call of the Wild, White Fang and Other Stories by Jack London, The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, and The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. In September, we also announced the winners of our 3rd annual Musical Theater Songwriting Challenge. This year, we received over 200 submissions from high school students in 41 states. Since September, each winner has been working virtually with a 2-person mentoring team to hone their submitted song into a professional piece of music, which will be recorded next month through a mix of in-person and virtual recording sessions. One silver lining of the pandemic is that because so much of this work will take place virtually, it freed up funds that would have gone towards winners' travel. And because of this, we were able to name 12 winners instead of 6. We also have some exciting developments surrounding our Sound Health Initiative, which explores the relationship between music and the brain. Launched in 2017, Sound Health is a partnership between the Kennedy Center and the National Institutes of Health in association with the National Endowment for the Arts. Early in the new year, the Arts Endowment will launch the Sound Health Network, which will be a national resource center for the overlapping fields of music, health, and brain science. Developed in partnership with the University of California, San Francisco, who will be managing the network, this online portal will share research, studies, articles, funding opportunities, and other data with the goal of raising awareness about the connections between music and neuroscience and health, and the value these connections can have for our overall well-being. The network will be available to the general public, and we expect it to be particularly helpful for policymakers and those working in healthcare. Last year, I also shared that the Arts Endowment had committed funding to the NIH's inaugural Music and Health Research Grants, which are supporting studies of how music interventions impact brain development, as well as neurological conditions such as Parkinson's disease. I am proud to let you know that the Arts Endowment has committed additional funding to 3 new sound health research opportunities from NIH, all of which will support projects that further explore the links between music, neuroscience, health, and wellness. We look forward to sharing additional details once they become available. Over the past few months, we have been honored that the Arts Endowment has been featured twice on Renee Fleming's Music and Mind live webcast series. Renee is an operatic legend and a National Medal of Arts recipient, and her webcasts have so far reached over 600,000 people in 70 countries. Sunil Iyengar presented during one webinar about the great work our agency is doing at the intersection of the arts and wellness, while another episode highlighted the work of our Creative Forces initiative, which brings the arts to service members and veterans who have experienced trauma. And speaking of Creative Forces, I also want to update you on developments taking place with that initiative. In July, we launched the new Creative Forces National Resource Center, which is a digital platform to support military-connected communities, including service members and veterans, researchers, creative arts therapists, artists, and community arts providers. The Resource Center shares clinical research studies resulting from Creative Forces articles and insights about the initiative and the impacts we have seen in our nation's military families. Additional content will soon be added to provide new training materials and to share best practices and lessons learned from our community-based efforts. We are confident that this portal will prove invaluable to the field and will help raise awareness about the benefits the arts can provide to service members and veterans. I saw some of these benefits firsthand when I visited the National Museum of Health and Medicine last month to see an exhibition of artwork made by Creative Forces patients. This exhibit, titled Creative Forces: Conquering the Invisible Wounds of War, was originally scheduled to open in March at the Kennedy Center and was organized at the request of Second Lady Karen Pence. Although COVID-19 delayed the opening, I think the exhibit was made even more powerful by the pandemic. As our nation experiences a collective sense of stress and anxiety, witnessing the strength and beauty that emerged from these artists processing trauma and accelerating healing through their art making was both incredibly moving as well as inspiring. A gallery of photos, video, and sound from the exhibit will be featured on the National Resource Center in the coming weeks. We look forward to providing you with updates when the exhibit is available online. To help the agency manage the continued growth of Creative Forces, we have brought on Carolyn Bartley as our new Creative Forces Program Manager. Prior to joining the Arts Endowment, Carolyn served as a Creative Forces Project Administrator at Americans for the Arts. Prior to that, she spent 15 years in the U.S. Air Force, including 3 deployments in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. We are thrilled to welcome Carolyn to our team. So, despite global disruptions due to COVID-19, our international initiatives also continue. In September, I spoke at the 3rd U.S. Qatar Strategic Dialogue, which was organized by Qatar's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the U.S. State Department. One of the topics under discussion at this virtual summit was the 2021 Qatar Year of Culture. Every year, Qatar hosts a cultural exchange program with a different country as a way to promote understanding and appreciation between the 2 participating nations. 2021 has been designated as the Qatar U.S. Year of Culture and will feature artists, arts organizations, and institutions from across the United States. As in past years of culture, which featured nations such as India, Germany, and Brazil, it's expected that a variety of exhibitions, festivals, competitions, and performances highlighting American culture will take place in Qatar throughout the year. We are thrilled to be working closely with the U.S. Embassy in Doha on this initiative and have offered to assist in any way we can. We have also continued to move forward with Expo 2020 Dubai, which was previously scheduled to take place this year and which will now be held from October 2021 to March 2022. This event marks the first World's Fair to take place in the Middle East. Our colleagues at the State Department, who are managing the exposition's U.S. Pavilion, have asked us to assist with organizing the call for artists. Artists can practice any discipline and will serve as ambassadors of U.S. culture. We are working with our partners at state arts agencies and regional arts organizations to spread the word that applications are now being accepted. Individual artists and group acts may apply at globaltiesus.org. That's globaltiesus.org. And as of now, it also looks like the Tokyo Olympics will indeed take place in 2021, which means we will finally be able to present to the global community the results of the 2020 U.S.-Japan Creative Artist Fellowship Program. Sponsored by the Arts Endowment and the Japan-U.S. Friendship Commission, this program has sent American artists to Japan since 1978. Where they work, learn, and create, while gaining an appreciation for Japanese culture. In honor of the 2020 Summer Olympics in Tokyo, however, the fellowship program supported collaborations between American artists and Japanese artists for the very first time. These artistic pairings truly took the spirit of friendship and mutual understanding to a new level. Projects were inspired by themes surrounding the Olympics, which include unity, collaboration, and of course, the longtime friendship between the U.S. and Japan. We are working with the Friendship Commission on rescheduling all planned projects, performances, and installations, which will be presented throughout Tokyo to coincide with the Olympic and the Paralympic Games. We look forward to highlighting the incredible work that has resulted from these creative partnerships. And as many of you may know, we were also slated to host the America's Cultural Summit here in Washington last June. At this time, we're looking into the possibility of moving forward with the conference as a virtual event, which will take place in June 2021. We will keep you posted of our plans as they develop. Those are all of my official updates. Are there any questions from the council? No? Thank you. As our final piece of business, I am pleased to announce that the National Council on the Arts has reviewed the applications presented to them, and a tally of the council members' ballots reveals that all recommendations for funding have passed. I want to thank everyone again for joining us today, and please continue to stay safe and healthy. The 201st meeting of the National Council on the Arts is now adjourned.